I'm sorry I couldn't be there in person to accept this introduction into the ECWA Hall of Fame. But just know that I really appreciate it. And there is a long list of people I need to thank that got me to this point today. I need to thank, for those that remember him, Andrew Riker. I need to thank Jim Kettner. I need to thank Joe Zanoli and Mike. I need to thank Ryan. And last but not least, I need to thank Mr. Ooh La La. Now, for those that don't know, I've been around ECWA since 2006. I made my debut on the December 5th, 2006 event. Now, you go back one prior month, Andrew Riker, who I had met at some events, some shows in Pennsylvania, he told me to come out early and meet Jim Kettner. And so I did that. I got to the building for the November 4th, 2006 event before the ring truck had showed up, before the doors were unlocked. And I helped set up the ring, I helped set up the guardrails, the mats, the chairs, put flyers on the chairs, everything that I could do to help out. And then I handed Jim Kettner a VHS tape and gave him my phone number, and he gave me a call and asked if I was available for the December 5th show. Now, I took a big gamble because I had to leave and cancel on my home promotion and place that I had been wrestling for a few years. And I took the biggest gamble of my short career at that point on ECWA. Now, I think it really paid off. And so Jim Kettner had the idea to put me with Mr. Ooh La La shortly after that. And that I really have to thank, because even if you don't believe it, Mr. Ooh La La, you are an internationally known star. People know who you are. And now I am a small part of that legacy. And I am absolutely honored that I got to be a part of that. Anyways, I stuck around at that until about 2008, then left, came back 2011 at the Super 8. Something that I read about in magazines, I saw videotapes of, DVDs, and now here I am, a part of it. And that was so amazing to come back to ECWA at the Super 8 in 2011. And I stuck around for a few years until 2016, 17, and then went off and kind of did my own thing, other places for a bit. COVID happened. But then I contacted Ryan and wanted to finish up my career at ECWA because you guys are my family. This was my home. This is the place I wrestled for the most and the longest. And so it was just fitting to end my career there. And so thank you, Ryan, for letting me do that, to write the final chapter of Bobby Shield's career. And so it's just absolutely perfectly fitting that this is the November 4th, 2023 event, and I debuted the first event that I showed up at was 17 years prior, the November 4th, 2006 event. So thank you. Thank you to each and every person that helped set up. Thank you to each and every person who's come to an event. Thank you to each and every person that has come through ECWA. Because without all of that, without all of you, without all of these things, there is no ECWA and there is no Bobby Shields like there is today. So thank you all.
I'd like to introduce a man who's going to introduce one of our nominees for Hall of Fame. His name is Mozart Fonte, 1/3 of the illustrious chick magnets here at ECWA. Give him a round of applause. Mozart Fonte!
Thank you. I appreciate it. All right. Thank you all for being here. This is a great pleasure for me to be able to induct one of my oldest friends in wrestling. So made a couple of notes, see if we can get through this and get Mr. Royal inducted tonight. I'd like to give you a little background on Sean Royal. Sean was trained in the IWF training camp, Kevin Knight's training camp, by Roman and current New Japan star Fred Rosser. Fred was Bone Crusher Fred Sampson. And Sean had a style, being a little bit smaller than his contemporaries. He had to bring something unique. He adapted the popular junior heavyweight style at the time, incorporating fancy footwork and dazzling maneuvers. As I was saying, Sean had to incorporate a unique style. He had to incorporate the junior heavyweight style that was popular at the time. Sean had trained in 2003, and he made his ECW debut here in 2005 in a three-way match. It was him and his partner Danny E, the heavyweights, versus Chase Del Monte, Andrew Riker, versus Mike Cruel and Arts Kincaid. Some legendary guys that came through this promotion. It was his second ECWA match that began a near 20-year friendship with me. The Chick Magnets, which was a tag team I was in the heavyweights, versus the OC Boys and the Logan Brothers, Johnny Maps. It was a 10-man tag match, if you can believe it. I actually first became aware of Sean, though. Met him through my friend and mentor, Jim Kevner. Jim took me through Chaotic Wrestling. He was looking at town and exchange opportunities, and he said, just raved about the heavyweights. He said they were really capable, they were talented, but most of all, it was their character, their charisma that he was attracted to. They flexed their muscles, they carried a scale in the ring, they were so much larger than life. And it was his in-ring personality was just huge. They believed that they were larger than they actually were, and it was just a special presentation that Sean brought. During his ECWA run that lasted until about 2011, he was a tag team champion as part of the heavyweights, beating the legendary tag team Valedictorians, which was Peter Bax and Rob Evans. He was also a Mid-Atlantic champ. Sean and Dan had excellent matches. I mean, they delivered outstanding performances. They were gaining a lot of popularity and slowly culminating a love of the fans. This actually came to a head at the 2006 ECWA Hall of Fame ceremony when Rob Echoes, who many of you know is Robert Stone from WWE, was being inducted. He went on to thank everybody but his brother, Danny Echoes, which was Sean's partner. Danny spearheaded a campaign to get Rob inducted and just really kind of let him have it, as it didn't really appreciate the work that he did. So that culminated in the heavyweights becoming fan favorites, garnering the sympathy and the support of all the fans. The storied career of Sean Royal continued with in-ring rivalries with many, including myself, as part of the Chicken Magnets. Sean and I always respected each other outside the ring, but we had quite a rivalry for many, many years. What I'd really like you to know about Sean Royal is that he's a father, he's a husband, he's a grade school teacher, he's a lover of professional wrestling. He's devoted to making a positive difference. As a matter of fact, when I asked Sean, I said, how do you want to be remembered? What's your legacy in ECWA and pro wrestling? And he told me, making connections with the fans and creating magic. He's always the underdog. He's a heavyweight at heart. And what I like to say in closing about Sean is that Sean is a standout, larger-than-life character who transcends the ring and makes people believe. makes people believe that he is as huge in his mind as he portrays. I'm proud to introduce my friend, the heavyweight, Sean Royal.
I need to thank this man right here. We spent many, many years in the ECWA together. Thank you, Mozart. Well, never say never. It was over 13 years ago that I spent my last day in the ECWA, and I thought I would never be back. Never say never. I am thrilled to be back home in the ECWA. Mozart talked a little bit about my career. I want to tell you some key moments that brought me here tonight. I started training in West Paterson, New Jersey in 2003. I was just a college kid with big dreams, driving from Fairfield, Connecticut to West Paterson, New Jersey 2 times a week to train. And the one thing that I always aspired was to one day be in the ECWA. Now kids, this is gonna seem a little weird to you, but 2003 was a time where social media wasn't a thing. You couldn't just go on YouTube and look at videos of wrestling matches. So we had to rely on Pro Wrestling Illustrated and the Wrestler magazines. And every magazine that I picked up at the newsstand featured the ECWA. Look at these posters around the room. Some of the most legendary wrestlers walked through this ring. And again, I thought I would never make it to the ECWA. How was I gonna fit in with Ace Starling, Bryan Danielson, the Haas brothers? But again, never say never. I made my way to Chaotic Wrestling. And that's where I met the legendary Jim Kettner. Me and my partner Dan Echoes, who's over in Saudi Arabia right now as a referee with WWE, just finished our very first Chaotic match. And Jim Kettner was in the building. And after the match, he walked up to us, and our jaws dropped. We couldn't believe Jim Kettner was going to be talking to us. We didn't know if he was going to tell us we did something wrong. And without a word, Jim Kettner walked up to us and said this. Shh, shh, shh. And he flexed his muscles with a big smile on his face and said, I want to talk to you two boys. I want to see you down in Delaware next month. And just like that, Jim Kettner saw something in us that made him bring us down to Newark, Delaware. I've witnessed wrestlers drive hundreds and hundreds of miles, offer to help Jim set up the chairs in the ring just to get his attention. And Jim came seeking us out. I was blown away. I had never dreamed that I would find myself in that situation. And the first night that I wrestled at the ECWA, the main event of the night was Freak Nasty versus the Cheetah Master in a steel cage match. The crowd was over 300 strong, and you would have thought the roof blew off the place after the finish. Me and Dan knew at that very moment that we were in a special place. Over our time in ECWA, we had the privilege of wrestling some legendary characters. Mega, Ace Starling, the Logan Brothers. And it was our feud with Billy Bax and Rob Echoes, the valedictorians, that put us on the map. Dan Echoes was feuding with his brother, and the tag teams got involved. This led to an 8-month journey, culminating in the heavyweights winning the ECWA tag team titles and a 6-page spread in PWI magazine. We went from the annoying heels that posed and laughed at the crowd for being overweight and out of shape to the most beloved tag team in the company. And over the next couple of years, we feuded in tag matches with the Chick Magnets, the Logans, Leather and Lace, the Berlin Bad Boys, Ace Starling and Crowbar. We wrestled in steel cage matches, ladder matches, gauntlet matches, anything that you can name. But in the end, my memories of the ECWA weren't the matches. They were the friendships. The guys in the locker room. Dan Echoes, my partner through all those years. Referee Sean Bennett, who's also in Saudi Arabia right now, who I still keep in touch with and visit on time-to-time basis. And guys like Mozart Fontaine, who keeps in touch. Darren Young, also known as Fred Rosser, Mega, all these guys. When I got into that locker room, I knew where Chase Del Monte was sitting. I knew where the Logans were sitting. I knew where Ace Starling was sitting. This was a tight-knit group. And every ECWA event brought out the best in every single person in that locker room. We knew that ECWA was the A show. This is where you put in your best effort. This is where the magazines were. This is where the news clippings would be. Some of the finest stars made their way through that locker room. And over the years, one of my most privileged memories is the fact that I got to know Jim Kettner, not just as the promoter, but as a friend. After Jim retired, I continued to travel to Delaware to wrestle. And me and Jim had a standing appointment that we would meet at the steakhouse. We'd order steak, he'd order his unsweetened iced tea, and we'd just chat. He would tell me stories about Christopher Daniel, Billy Kidman, Brian Danielson, and all the legends that came through the business. And I grew an appreciation for the wrestlers that came before me. And I hope that you recognize the talent that you see every time you come to an ECWA event, because you don't know who the next WWE star is going to be, who's going to be on the TV in a couple of years. I wrestled Ivan from the Viking Raiders. I didn't know it at the time, but I was wrestling a future star. Darren Young, former WWE Tag Team Champion. At the time, he was just Fred. He became a star. So every time you come to an event, keep your eyes out for the next future star that steps in this ring, because the ECWA has produced many, many stars. Most of all, I want to thank the fans. You fans are what drive us to do what we do. You make the decision to come out and be entertained. Cheer us, boo us, enjoy yourself. This is a chance to forget about homework and jobs and money and just sit back and be entertained. And we're going to do our best job to continue to entertain you. So thank you, fans, for coming out and supporting. I need to thank my family who has supported me, my wife who was at my first show 20 years ago, cringing every time I hit that mat, watching me get slammed into steel cages, thrown off of ladders, hit by steel chairs. She didn't love it, but she supported it. And my daughter, who's 10 years old, and really, really, really does not like to see her daddy get beaten up, but loves to see her daddy doing the beating up. So thank you to my family. And thank you to the ECWA. When they reached out to me that they were going to induct me into the Hall of Fame, I was filled with emotions. This is such a sweet moment for me. I spent most of my career in the ECWA. Some of my fondest memories and some of my best friends were made through this company. So thank you to everyone backstage in the ECWA who continues to hold the tradition. So before I wrap up, I need everyone to stand up. We're going to do this heavyweight style. Let's see us all flex those muscles one time for the heavyweights. Ready? Hoo, hoo, hoo! Thank you so much and enjoy the show tonight. Thank you. Thank you.
You've earned your place, my friend.
Thank you.
Yes.